there's a part of me that wants to be really angry at Alabama because I'm desperately searching and not finding a winning week for my best bets. And that Alabama scored when the game was over to cover 10.5 against Vanderbilt is why you should not ever wager an amount of money you'd care to be rid of on these particular incidents, because boy, thought I had the winning week there. Instead, it's 2-3. And Alabama has fixed themselves. That's what they look like to me. The Florida State game was a disaster. It was a continuation of the problems from last year, and now we're just not seeing that version of Alabama show up. And that's great news for Kalen DeBoer. That's great news for Crimson Tide fans. My biggest points of concern for Alabama last year and in the Florida State game were penalties and situational football. Well, what do you know? Alabama, an early failure on fourth down in this game. They went 2 of 2 after that. They were 7 of 15 on third down. Not bad. 3 penalties for 30 yards. This looks like a much more buttoned up team. Hey, they even ran the ball well. And I am not, because I am consistent on this particular position, and I hope that I never do this in my entire career, picking and talking about college football games. I hope I never go into a game and say, hey, you should look at a game this way, and this win should be measured in this way, and then come out and say, oh, the other team wasn't actually any good. Oh, they weren't. No, that Florida State game was still a disaster. No, I felt Vanderbilt had a chance to hang around, maybe win the game. I picked Alabama to win. I picked Vanderbilt to cover. That's essentially what happened. This game looked how I expected, but the vibes for their Alabama fans should be good right now. For Vanderbilt, disappointing. Season's not over. You still got a lot of goals ahead of you. Vanderbilt's still a top 20 team in my top 25. Going to the college football playoff, not at all out of the question for the Commodores and Diego Pavia there. So disappointing, sure, but in a revenge spot on the road, did you expect to win this game? I didn't. I think for Vanderbilt, this is a no-vibe sort of outcome. Just, darn. Let's go get the next one. But for Alabama, they look like the football team Crimson Tide fans were expecting from the moment Kalen DeBoer showed up. Because given his recent history, that's all he had done. Win double-digit games and just get things going immediately. And it's taken a little while longer. Well, Ty Simpson looks like a much different player. The Alabama offensive line has had a fire lit under their rear ends collectively, and they're protecting him much, much better. Now, he was sacked 4 times in this game, admittedly. It wasn't always perfect. However, you look up and Simpson is going 23 of 31 for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception on the 4th and 1. He looks like the perfect sort of fit for this Kalen DeBoer offense. He looks a lot more like Michael Penix than Jalen Milroe, and that's what they were looking for. I think that's why they went with Ty Simpson. Because last year, Jalen Milroe is half runner, half thrower. That can be great. If you put him in Andy Kotelnicki's system at Penn State, it would probably fit better than Drew Aller. If you put him in Haynes King's spot at Georgia Tech, it would fit a whole heck of a lot better than if you put Carson Beck at Georgia Tech. There are different fits, and Ty Simpson is the type of quarterback that Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have historically had success with. Not that mobility is bad, wrong, or something they're never going to be able to work with. They just want a guy who fundamentally is going to do his damage from the pocket, and that's what he's doing. And the offensive line is playing significantly better. That Florida State game, he's under duress. A lot. All over the place. And so as a result, the game got sped up. He looked out of sorts. He was having to run a lot. That's not what he does. But Alabama here plays a good Vanderbilt team, and they were the better team on the field. And yeah, I'm sure Crimson Tide fans would have liked to have had a big dominant blowout, payback for the embarrassment of last season. But ultimately, if you're Alabama, you take what you can get. Remember, the Crimson Tide are yet to lose an SEC game. They could lose one this weekend. Some people, me, have Missouri as a top 10 team in college football. Now, I have Alabama back into that fold following their wins at Georgia and against Vanderbilt. But at Missouri this week, followed by their next game against Tennessee, who we also know is good, That game's in Tuscaloosa for the third Saturday in October. This is a really challenging stretch. And if Alabama wins their next 2 games, I actually can't see how they don't go to the playoff, because after that, they play LSU and Oklahoma at home before Eastern Illinois. Oh my goodness, it is the last time that I have to talk about a late season SEC cupcake this year. I never want the college football season to end. That alone almost makes me excited for this college football season to end, because we will never have, hopefully, the late season cupcake there. You can have them early in the year. That's fine. I support that. As a matter of fact, sticking it in late November, an abomination for the sport. They play at Auburn the last week of the regular season. Auburn might not have their current head coach. Now, as we learned with UCLA, that can actually make a team incredibly dangerous. But Hugh Freeze is fighting for his life, and Alabama controls their own destiny here, despite the upset loss to Florida State, in which they played horribly. And Florida State, they may or may not be in the top 25 at the end of the year. I think we're going to look back by the time the season comes to a close. If Alabama continues on this trajectory, I think we are going to look back and just wonder, how in the world did this Alabama team play like that? A team season is never defined in August or September, but still, how did you go from looking so bad against a good but not great team in the ACC in Florida State, which is what they are? In the ACC, that's the worst of the Power Four conferences, by the way. How did you look like that and then wind up in the SEC championship game? I picked Alabama to go 11-1 in the regular season. I think they'll drop another one at some point. It could be this Saturday. Missouri is a darn good football team. Bo Pribula and Amari Hardy are playing real ball there in Columbia, and that crowd is going to be on fire, because they've got an opportunity to prove to the rest of the world, okay, here we are. This is Missouri football, and we're going to go make the SEC championship game. And it's hard to write them off for that. But when I watch this version of Alabama compared to the past, I see a coaching staff that has got its players in the right mindset, that are making adjustments, that are making changes to fix the mistakes that have plagued them previously. And now you look up and go, okay, so I've got 2 elite receivers, a good running back, an offensive line that continues to improve, a coordinator and head coach that have got a long track record of winning. Our quarterback's playing really well. Our defense is playing well. Wait a minute, we might have a football team. It's not the Alabama of old. It's not one that's going to go out and win just because they've got the scarlet A on the side of the helmet and everyone's intimidated. Nope, they've been knocked down a peg from that. And frankly, I don't think there's anybody in college football that can have that level of intimidation right now. The talent is just way too spread out. In a big game, I don't think you can go into it and go, this team has just got absolutely no shot, as long as it's not a huge discrepancy. You know, if you put the Group 5 champion up against Ohio State's defense, I don't think they're going to score a ton of points in that particular spot. But for Alabama going forward, this looks like a team that can go to the SEC championship. This looks like a team that can get to the playoff and make a run. They have to get through some serious hurdles, though, because LSU's defense is no joke. John Mateer should be back by the time they play Oklahoma. Things can get weird at Jordan-Hare last week of the regular season. And before that, you've got Missouri, Tennessee, and at South Carolina. Challenging, but it's hard to not be encouraged if you're a Crimson Tide fan.